Alrighty, good evening, everybody. I call to order the April 2nd, 2024 public hearing and regular meeting of the Zoning Subcommittee. The time is now 6:30 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Alderman Simpson.
Present.
Alderman Scott. Here. Alderman McAdam. Here. Alderman McNamara.
Here.
Alderman Malinowski.
Here.
Alderman Russell.
Here.
Alderman Hargreaves. Alderman Barbosa.
Present.
Alderman Beloin Savitra. Alderman Connors.
Here.
Alderman Gibson.
Here.
Alderman Pavon.
Here.
Alderman Sanchez. Alderman Santiago.
Present.
And Alderman Smedley. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, will you please read into the record the notice of the public hearing? Alderman Santiago.
I make a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing.
Legal notice.
Legal notice, thank you.
Alrighty, we have a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice by Alderman Santiago, seconded by Alderman Pabon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The motion carries. The reading is waived. So having been noticed properly, we will begin the public hearing. Please remember to state your name and address for the record and limit your speaking time to 3 minutes. The first item for public hearing is item number 36375, to amend the zoning ordinances relating to certain dimensional and parking standards in the B3 district. Are there any speakers for this item? Are there any speakers for this item? One last time, any speakers for this item? No callers? Okay, seeing no speakers, we'll move on to the next item. The second item for the public hearing is item number 36376, to amend the zoning ordinances to add food trucks as an accessory. Are there any speakers for this item? Any speakers for this item? One last time, any speakers for this item? No callers? Alrighty, seeing no speakers, we'll move on to the next item. The third item for our public hearing is item number 36377, to amend the zoning ordinances to correct certain uses in the industrial districts. Are there any speakers for this item? Any speakers? One more time, any speakers? No callers? Alrighty, seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Fourth item for our public hearing is item number 36378, to amend the zoning ordinances relating to referral timeframe to City Plan Commission for zoning amendments. Are there any speakers for this item? Any speakers for this item? One last time, any speakers? No callers? Seeing no speakers, we will move on. We will close the public hearing and move on to the regular meeting. The time is now 6:33 p.m. The first item on the agenda is item number 36375, to amend the zoning ordinances relating to certain dimensional and parking standards in the B3 district. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman McNamara.
I make a motion to accept and refer to full council with a neutral recommendation.
Second.
Alrighty, we have a motion to refer back to the council with a neutral recommendation by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderman Santiago. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman McNamara.
because the fact that City Plan Commission was, I understand, unable to meet prior to this meeting to make their recommendation, which is required, I make a motion to table this item.
Second.
Alrighty, there is a motion to table this item by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderman Santiago. Do we have discussion on this, or is this straight? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Alrighty, the motion is tabled. Alrighty. The second item on the agenda is item number 36376, to amend the zoning ordinances to add food trucks as an accessory. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman McNamara.
I make a motion to accept and refer to the full council with a neutral recommendation.
Alrighty, we have a recommendation to recommend back to the full council with a neutral recommendation by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderman Gibson. Is there any discussion? Or, I'm sorry, all in favor say aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, is there just, oh, okay.
if I could
Discussion,
intervene.
go for it.
For the reasons stated in the prior agenda item, City Plan Commission recommendation is required. They were unable to meet, so I make a motion to table the item.
All righty, motion to table by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderman Russell. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The item is tabled. And the third item on our agenda is item number 36377, to amend the zoning ordinances to correct certain uses in the industrial districts. May I have a motion?
I have a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman McNamara.
I make a motion to accept and refer to the full council with a neutral recommendation.
All righty, we have a motion to recommend back to the council, to the common council with a neutral recommendation by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderman Santiago. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman McNamara.
thanks for recognizing me. Because City Plan Commission was unable to make a recommendation, I make a motion to table this item.
All righty, motion to table this item made by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderwoman McAdam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The item is tabled. Fourth item on our agenda is item number 36378, to amend the zoning ordinances relating to the referral timeframe to City Plan Commission for zoning amendments. May I have a motion?
May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Go for it.
Make a motion to accept and refer to the full council with a neutral recommendation.
All righty, we have a motion to recommend this item back to the council with a neutral recommendation by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderman Gibson. Is there any discussion on this item?
I'd like to discuss.
Alderman McNamara.
Because of the fact that City Plan was unable to meet with a recommendation, which is required, I make a motion to table this again.
All righty, we have a motion to table this item by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderwoman McAdam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned
Thanks for
by
the help.
Alderman Santiago, seconded by Alderwoman McAdam. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. The time is 6:38. All right, good evening. I call to order the April 2nd 2024 public hearing and regular meeting of the Committee on Planning, Zoning, and Housing. The time is now 6:39 p.m. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Good evening again. Alderman Simpson.
Present.
Alderman Scott. Alderman McAdam. Alderman McNamara.
Here.
Alderman Malinowski. Alderman Russell. Alderman Hargreaves. Alderman Pavone. Also seated this evening, you have Alderman Barbosa and Alderman Santiago. You have a quorum.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, will you please read into the record the notice of the public hearing?
Mr. Chair,
Alderwoman McAdam?
I make a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice.
All righty, motion to waive the legal reading by Alderwoman McAdam, seconded by Alderman Pabon. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. legal reading is waived. So having been properly noticed, we will begin the public hearing. Please remember to state your name and address for the record and limit your speaking time to 3 minutes. The first item for the public hearing is item number 36366, to amend the Code of Ordinances, Section 19-54, regarding zoning regulation amendments and changes. Are there any speakers for this item? Any speakers for this item? One more time, any speakers? No callers? Alrighty, seeing no speakers, we will move on to the next item. The second item for the public hearing is item number 36406, to amend the Code of Ordinances, Section 17-2, to require a report to the Common Council once an agreement for the lease of any city property has been signed by all parties. Are there any speakers for this item? Any speakers for this item? One more time, any speakers for this item? No callers. So seeing no speakers, we will close the public hearing and move on to the regular meeting. The time is now 6:41 p.m. The first item on our agenda is item number 36366, to amend the Code of Ordinances, Section 1954, regarding zoning regulation amendment and changes. May I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman McNamara.
I make a motion to accept and refer to the full council with neutral recommendation.
Is there a second? All righty, we have a
I'm not in this, so.
motion to refer back to the Common Council with a neutral recommendation made by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderwoman Scott. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to amend this item in the following way, by changing the 25 days to 35 days to be consistent with zoning ordinances and the state statute.
All righty. So we have an amendment to change the section stating 25 days to 35 days to be in better line with state statutes, made by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderwoman McAdam. Corporation Council, is this an item for discussion or straight to a vote?
I actually,
Motion to amend, yes, you can discuss.
Okay, well, is there any discussion?
yeah, I just point out the reason for this amendment from 25 to 35 days, it is we have to adhere to state statutes, which states reports at least 35 days prior to the date assigned for a public hearing. And it's section 8-3A, under findings of consistency of proposed regulations or boundaries with the plan of development. So that is the reason for the amendment.
All right. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we will vote on this amendment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The item is amended. So now we're moving back to the original motion to accept and refer back to the Common Council with a neutral recommendation as amended. Is there any discussion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. The item passes as amended. And let's see. The second item on our agenda is item number 36406, to amend the Code of Ordinances, Section 17-2, to require a report to the Common Council once an agreement for the lease of any city property has been signed by all parties. May I have a motion?
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Alderman McNamara.
I make a motion to accept and refer to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Is there a second? All righty, we have a motion to refer this back to the council with a favorable recommendation by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderwoman Scott. Is there any discussion? Alderman Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a couple questions, and maybe through you, if I could ask them to Mr. Benjamin, Mr. Cormier.
Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Benjamin. Can you just briefly sort of lay out the process of the city leasing property? for us, please?
Sure. So, I mean, typically is initiated with the council and then referred back to subcommittee, and then we in city plan do an 8-24, or technically in our ordinance is a 19-22 review, in which we submit a report back to the council. The City Plan Commission is really tasked with reviewing and approving its alignment with the Plan of Conservation and Development.
All right, and the council approves of any lease agreements in the first place, correct?
Yes, ultimately, you're the authoritative body.
Okay, and sort of what would the time frame be between the council approving a lease agreement and the lease agreement being executed?
Well, so I mean, you're also giving the city authorization to execute. So, you know, ideally, we're getting those done in a fairly quick turnaround, right? They're coming to you when there's a need to lease a property. You know, I mean, it's a 45 to 60-day window, right, between referral to subcommittee to city plan, back to council, and then execution is anytime after that.
So basically, everything is ready to go as soon as the council says go ahead, it's a matter of scheduling the meeting?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Are these lease agreements public record?
Yeah, they're matter of public record, and generally we're using, most of it is boilerplate information, depending on individual. I mean, you know, it really depends on what we're leasing, if we're leasing to somebody, leasing from.
All right, and there's a place where we or the public could easily find this out?
Certainly.
Could you just, for the record, state that for us, please?
Sure, well, I mean, through freedom of information requests, obviously. Mm-hmm. If the public was interested in seeing a particular lease, I would encourage that to be the route to go.
All right. So this would change it, so after the lease agreement was executed, now we would you'd be submitting a report back to us that it was executed?
As I understand this resolution, that's how I understand it.
Okay. To me, Mr. Chair, it just seems a little bit redundant, and for that purpose, I think I'll be voting no this evening, and that's all from me.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Maybe this will help our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. I have, like to offer two amendments to this resolution.
All righty.
In the second paragraph, be it ordained, I'd like to, when it says Section 2-442 of Chapter 2, I'd like to amend that to 17-2 of Chapter 17 of the Code of Ordinances. I think it's a correction. And on that, that is my first amendment.
All righty. Is there a second?
Second.
All righty, so we have a motion to amend this language, 2-42 of Chapter 2 to 17-2 of Chapter 17, made by Alderman McNamara, seconded by Alderwoman Scott. Is there any discussion on this?
Sorry, can we go over that one more time, please?
Want me to-
Sure.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Go ahead.
I made a mistake when I drafted this, so I was using another form, so that's why 2-42 was left in there in Chapter 2. So it should be 17-2 and Chapter 17, as Alderman McNamara indicated.
All righty. Thank you for the clarification. Is there further discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor of amending this item to substitute language to just have the correct reference in there, I'll say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, party line? Okay. I believe the ayes have it. We have a 4-3. All righty, the item is approved as amended.
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman McNamara.
The second amendment I have pertains to the Article 1 in general, Section C, where it says the department head involved shall report to the Common Council once an agreement for the lease of city property previously approved by the council has been signed by all parties and shall attach such a copy. I'd like to propose removing the words previously approved by the council.
All righty, and just for reference, this is the last paragraph on the first page of this resolution. All right, so there's a motion to eliminate the language previously approved by the council in section 17-2C. Is there any, did we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderwoman McAdam, and is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Malinowski.
Mr. Chair, we can remove the words previously approved from the resolution itself, but I don't see how that changes the actual process of previously approving the lease agreement. So, I mean, we can remove the language, but the process still remains the same. Thank you.
All righty. Any other discussion? Alderman Pabon.
So what is this gonna do? It's gonna come back, once everything's approved, so another document comes down and say it was approved by the council?
Would the,
I don't understand.
May I
I was just
respond
about
to
to
him?
ask.
Alderman Pabon, this does not circumvent or step into the authority of the mayor at all in her authority to execute these contracts. What it does is it provides a sunshine and accountability and openness, so the council can review it. Purely a sunshine amendment.
Yeah, but once we approved it the first time, why we gotta go through all these other steps?
Well, it's within the authority of the, if I may, through you, Mr. Chair, it's within the authority of the council to review what's been done. It's just a matter of oversight.
Alderwoman McAdam, and then Alderwoman Scott, I have you after. Can you have your mic on?
Is it okay if I ask Jack a question?
I believe so, yeah.
Jack, could I call you? I'm sorry. When it comes to the council, isn't it to basically give authority to do the contract itself, and to have permission to have the contract drawn out at that point? That's not to approve the actual final print of the contract. It's just to give permission or authority for the contract to be written up, correct?
I'm just trying to understand the question. Is it about what the typical process, what authority that gives the council?
No, when it comes to council, and council gives permission for the contract, isn't that so that it can go out for discussion to make the actual contract at that point?
I think I can answer that question, if I may.
Please, Attorney Pecorski.
I think typically, when it comes before the council for approval, you have the terms, how much, that type of thing. And then after you approve that, then we draft up the lease agreement. But you're approving, in my recollection of lease agreements, you're approving the actual amount. We're saying, we're gonna lease this property for $2,000 a month, or what, I'm just giving you an example. So typically, the council would give authority to that, and then the mayor, the resolution would give the mayor the authority to sign the actual lease agreement. So you do have typically terms before you that you're approving, and then that is what the lease agreement is drafted on. And I also just want to state that under 2-25 of the current Code of Ordinances, it specifically states that all alderperson shall have access to any public record in City Hall and can ask any department for any record. So I just want to remind all of you that you could, in those situations, if you wanted to see the final product, you can just call that department and say, I want to see the signed agreement. In this situation, you are essentially having it come back to you after you've approved it, and, it's sort of an additional step. So just my 2 cents.
If I may.
Alderwoman McAdam.
So, in between the time that we approve it, though, those numbers can change in negotiations of the contract. Because we're basically saying, here you go, you guys can talk about the lease. Those numbers can or cannot change at that point afterwards.
You're giving, as I understand, you're giving the executive of the city the authority to execute the contract with the terms that were discussed in the meeting, as I understand it.
Alderman Santiago.
As previous resolutions that I have seen of contracts, you also give the authority to the mayor to also, if there's any additional concern or any other, some things come up, you allow the mayor to authorize that position. So if there's any changes, whatever, it don't come back to us. Actually, you give her, I'm saying her because she is the mayor, but you give the mayor full authorization to do any changes or anything after we give we pass that resolution. So if there's any changes, say cost or price or anything, you allow the mayor at the moment of time to do that, because in the resolutions that I've previously seen multiple times, we allow the administrative mayor to do those duties. So again, if there's any changes, we don't get to see that unless we have to, if we found out there was a change, then ask for that. Again, FOI and all those Information Act, whatever. But at the moment of time, we won't know it. So the only way we'll know is, say, for instance, a constituent or somebody comes in and says, hey, you agreed to that contract? And we were like, well, we did. But then we find out there's maybe some changes to it that we didn't know about. Because it doesn't go back, it doesn't give the resolution doesn't say, all right, it goes back to the council for approval after the mayor does some changes, if there was some changes that needed to be made. So this is just saying, following through, in case there were any changes, that we get the opportunity, because I know corporate counsel had gave me advice that said we could amend the resolution whenever it came through to allow that to come back. But again, sometimes we might not remember. We might be busy with a budget or any other events or something like that, that we might not have the opportunity to ask for that contract to come back to us. So this is just pretty much transparency, so that way, if there was some changes, we'll see it, and we know as a council that we're doing our due diligence. And this is pretty much that's where I put this in for.
Not sure if Attorney Prokowski has anything to add, but I'm not sure it has a lot of latitude after it comes to you and you approve the ability to execute with certain terms.
Right, if you approve a certain amount, then the lease agreement is going to be executed for that amount, because that's what the council approved. I think what you may be referring to, Alderman, and I could be wrong, is it says any future amendments to the contract, like if something comes down the road and there's a change. But if the council, if it's in front of the council and it says the term is for 5 years and for $2,000 a year, and that's what you approve, that's what yes, the mayor is given the authority to execute the documents, but based on that authority that was given by the council. Now, there may be other terms that sometimes we have hold harmless language in the agreements and those types of things. That's a legal issue that basically my office would review, and if we don't agree with some of the language. But the terms as approved by the council would be the terms that are typically in the agreement.
Alderman Pabon.
Well, if we approve a number, say for a leasing or something, if it comes back to, it would have to come back to us to change that number. They just can't say, well, okay, let's do less in the office. It's got to come to us so we can approve it, don't we?
Sorry, I just want to say, I had Alderwoman Scott a while ago, and then, yeah? Okay, go ahead.
Not if you're giving the resolution, you're giving authority for at the bottom, if you look at multiple times of the resolutions, it does allow the mayor to make additional changes if necessary. You allow her, once you vote her that, you give her authority to do that. So if there is some changes, you give her, by putting that resolution in, you give her, I'm sorry to keep saying her, but you give the mayor the opportunity to do those changes. So even if it was $2,000 agreement, but if you allow, if under writing, if you allow her to do any additional, it has to, something comes up or whatever, you give the mayor the opportunity to do that. So if it changed, you're giving her the opportunity. I keep saying her because the mayor, but.
So but again, if you're focusing more on an amendment to the lease agreement, then, you could change the language to say if there's any amendments, the council should be notified. Because that's what I think you're referring to, but again, that's just what I'm hearing you say.
I think it's pretty much.
All right, Alderwoman Scott, and then up next, Alderman Russell.
I just wanted to say that I don't mind having redundancy and having it coming back an extra time because it's in the best interest of the people who live here in New Britain and the people that we're serving, that there is oversight and transparency. So I don't mind the extra step, and I'm not sure why anyone would mind the extra step. So that's all.
Well, my only point is there is transparency. There's, under 2-25, you guys are entitled to any public record. Anyone can ask for it through Freedom of Information. That's a state law. We comply with that. We get many Freedom of Information requests. We are transparent with our documents. If they're public documents and someone asks for it, they're provided that. So that's the only point.
I think the problem with that is that we'd have to actually physically ask for it. And if it's just coming back, then it's just a clear shot, like we're all going to see it. So it's definitely going to be seen by everybody that way.
Alderman Russell? Can you turn your mic on? Thank you.
You know, I'm trying, this is about a lease that we're approving to be signed, correct?
Yes, correct.
Once this lease is signed, do we have any right to vote no on it? I mean, we're talking about a signed lease at that point. And I'm trying to think about the legal standards of it. What do we have the right to do and what we don't have the right to do? I mean, we already approved it to move forward, and at that point, we're gonna say no, after we signed this lease already? I mean, is that even legal?
I think that would be her.
I'm not the
So, as I understand it, it's a report that would come back, a report that the lease agreement was signed, and a copy of the lease agreement would be attached. So with a report, you have to accept a report. It's really not requiring any action of the council. So the council couldn't change the terms of the lease agreement because it's been entered into per the resolution that was originally approved by the council. So my understanding is this is coming back as a report, and you would just have to accept the report and keep it for your records.
Thank you. My vote will still be a no on this. Thank you.
Alderman McNamara.
I just add one more thing, that I agree with the Corporation Council that under our public information statutes and ordinances, we can ask the Jack Benjamins and the other department heads for any information, and it would be provided. This is just the council seeing the details of these agreements will inform the council the next time a similar agreement or related will come up, so that the council will understand what they're voting on. And also, there are times when information, what would be the court term, it's important to make a record at a meeting, in a report, so that it is readily available to the public. And I've been involved in several FOI requests and other things, and it works. That system works. But this is to inform the council so they can exercise their best judgment, not circumventing the executive branch authority and the ability to execute these agreements.
Alderman Malinowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think everything that was brought up here is an extremely valid point, but I think it is more of an issue of the due diligence of the members of this board before the fact of entering into a lease agreement, as opposed to getting another report back that effectively does nothing. And that's why I'm still a no on this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the question if there are no other comments or discussion.
All righty. We don't need to vote on moving the question, right?
Oh,
I don't think so.
that's another body.
All righty. Let's see. We have a motion on the table to amend the item to remove the wording previously approved by the council in section 17-2 C. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Party line. I will say I only heard 3 yays. Yeah, all right. All in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 4-3. I'm the voting, oh, well, okay then. And all opposed? Alrighty, so 4-3, the motion carries. So now we are back to the original item, to recommend back to the Common Council with I believe, a favorable recommendation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry, is there any further discussion on this item?
Mr. Chair, for the record, I believe it was a neutral recommendation.
No, it was favorable.
It was favorable? Oh,
Favorable, yes.
All good. Accountability is what we're here for. Alrighty, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Oh, aye. And then party line 4-3, the motion carries. Alrighty. No, we just had the two items on the agenda.
If I could be recognized one more time, Mr. Chairman.
Sure, a point of privilege if you would.
Motion to adjourn.
Alrighty, all in favor, say aye for adjournment. All opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. The time is now 7:06.